It happened during what was supposed to be a perfect family photo shoot, the kind my mother loved to orchestrate. My 6-year-old daughter, Julia, sat right in the front row, her little yellow dress bright against the sea of red sweaters and plaid shirts. She smiled so wide, her cheeks dimpled, proud just to be part of the moment. A week later, when the glossy Christmas cards arrived, my mother spread them across the dining table like trophies. "Look at these," she said, holding one up to the light, her face glowing with satisfaction. Julia rushed forward, eager to see herself. She adored photos, loved feeling included, seen. But the second she looked, her smile froze. Her eyes darted over the faces, cousins, grandparents, her Aunt Becky, and Uncle Jason, all smiling perfectly in place. And then came the question that cracked my heart in two. "Mom, where am I?" At first, I thought she must have missed herself. I took a card, looked closer, then another. My chest tightened. She wasn't hidden or cropped out by mistake. She was gone, completely erased. Her hand had been tucked into her cousin Jessie's that day. I remembered it clearly. But now Jessie's hand just hovered strangely, cut at an odd angle. The floorboards where Julia had stood had been copied, pasted, and stretched over the spot she'd occupied. This wasn't a glitch. Someone had intentionally paid to have her removed. Julia's small fingers trembled as she flipped through card after card. "Maybe I'm hiding," she whispered. "Maybe I'm behind someone." Then her voice cracked. "But I was there." She dropped the cards and looked at me, eyes brimming. "Why am I not in any?" I pulled her close, holding her shaking shoulders while fury burned cold beneath my skin. She was 6 years old, and she already knew what it meant to be erased. Across the room, my mother adjusted one of the cards on the mantel, admiring it like nothing was wrong. "The colors look so clean this year," she said smugly. My phone buzzed with a new message in the family group chat. "Becky, finally looks uniform." Uniform, like my child had been a stain they'd wiped away. Julia wiped her face and whispered, "But I was smiling." No one answered. My dad muttered something about wanting it tidy. Then my mother said it. Calm, dismissive, cruel. We all agreed it was better this way. Her dress didn't fit. It stood out. It ruined the picture. It's not personal. Julia's lips trembled. "But I was smiling," she repeated softly. The silence that followed it felt suffocating. I wanted to tear those cards to pieces, but instead, I just held my daughter and made a promise. This would be the last time anyone erased her. That night, while everyone else admired their picture-perfect illusion, I sat awake thinking. And by morning, I knew exactly what I was going to do. And my mother's smile faded when she opened her Christmas gift the next day. Becky had always been the investment. I'd always been the labor. It started early, piano lessons for her, mops for me. When Grandma needed help, I was the one called upstairs, while Becky was too busy. By high school, the favoritism was open and unapologetic. When Becky wanted something, she got it. When I asked for anything, I got a chore instead. When Grandma's knees failed, I helped her bathe and eat. Becky's excuse? Soccer practice. My father never questioned it. "Becky already has 3 activities," he said once without looking up from his paper. "Do you want to drain us dry?" My mother had smirked. "You learn plenty of lessons cleaning." Becky polished. I disappeared. When she married Jason, my parents practically threw a parade. They helped with the down payment for their house, paid for furniture, even the new counters Becky wanted 6 months later. I watched it all quietly, bitter, yes, but not surprised. Becky had always been their masterpiece. I was just background noise. When I fell in love in my 20s, I thought maybe that would change. Spoiler, it didn't. He wasn't perfect. We'll just call him the disappearing act. But I thought we were building something. We weren't married yet, but we talked about moving in together. I worked up the courage one night to ask my parents for a little help with rent. Not a house, just rent. You don't need it, my mother said flatly. Stay here. There's space. What she really meant was stay useful. Cook, clean, help grandma, keep being convenient. So I smiled, said sure, and moved out anyway. The flat was tiny, the furniture secondhand, the walls thin enough to hear the neighbors breathe. But it was ours. And for a while, that was enough. I still visited grandma. I always did. She was the only one who looked at me and saw more than the help. And then I got pregnant. The timing was terrible. Too many bills, too many worries, but I was happy. I thought, now they'll finally see me. They didn't. When I asked for help, my father barely looked up. We don't have money for that, he said. A week later, Becky got a new living room set, paid for by them. By the time Julia was 1, her father was gone too, off to grad school in another state, new life, new girlfriend. I packed what was left of ours into boxes and went back home. I thought I'd at least get my old bedroom back. Instead, I found it transformed. Fresh paint, toys stacked neatly. My nephew Ryan's name glittered above the bed. He didn't even live there. Becky's childhood room, though, untouched. A shrine. Julia and I were shoved into the attic. Cracked paint, slanted ceiling, freezing in winter and suffocating in summer. 2 beds jammed together under a single bulb. It's fine, my mother said when I protested. Ryan needs his own space when he visits. You'll be fine up there. Every creak of that attic floor reminded me exactly where I stood, beneath everyone else. At first, Julia didn't notice, but children grow fast. By 6, she saw it all. Her cousins had their own rooms. She had none. Why do I share with you? She asked one night. Why don't I have my own? I smoothed her hair and told her it was temporary. I lied, because nearly every cent I earned went to the household. Food, bills, contributions. Saving was impossible. People think cruelty is loud, shouting, slamming doors. But sometimes it's quiet. It's in the choices people make when they think no one will notice. It's funding one daughter's dream house while telling the other to be grateful for a roof. It's carving your child's name in glitter above a door that should have been yours. It's telling a 6-year-old she doesn't belong in a photo because her dress didn't match. That kind of silence, it screams, and I could feel it building because what had started with me was now targeting Julia, and I wasn't going to let it happen again. And that night, I lay awake beside my sleeping daughter, her tiny hand clutching her stuffed bunny. Every creak above us felt like the house whispering, "You'll never escape." But I decided I would. I opened my phone, scrolled through messages, and found one from a friend who worked at a bar downtown. They'd been looking for night staff. I typed before I could stop myself. Do you still need someone? I'll take the shifts. Send. If I had to work myself into the ground, I would. Freedom had a price, and I was finally ready to pay it. Before bed, I crept to Grandma's room. Her lamp was still on, the soft yellow glow spilling under the door. She was sitting up, glasses low on her nose, doing her crossword puzzle. Can't sleep? She asked, not looking up. I smiled faintly. You know me. I sat on the edge of her bed and handed her one of the Christmas cards. She studied it, frowning, then saw it. Or rather, saw what wasn't there. Her lips pressed together. Julia was there, she said. Yes, I replied quietly. Front row, yellow dress, but apparently yellow didn't match the uniform. She sighed, set the card aside. I told her about the job, about the plan. I can't keep her here, I said, my voice shaking. Not when they treat her like this. I'll work nights. Save will leave. Grandma watched me for a long time. Then she said, calm and cryptic, "You won't need to do that." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Just leave it with me," she said, turning back to her crossword. I didn't understand then. I just kissed her cheek and went back to the attic, still planning my escape. The next morning, everything changed. When I came downstairs, a small box sat on the table, neatly wrapped as if it had always been there. "A gift from Grandma," my mother said, already smiling as she peeled the ribbon away. Inside wasn't jewelry or cookies, it was a stack of papers. Her smile vanished. My father stepped closer, reading over her shoulder. His mouth fell open. I leaned forward and caught the header: legal seals, official formatting. Before anyone could speak, Grandma appeared in the doorway. Cane in one hand, lawyer beside her. "It's not a joke," she said evenly. "That's an eviction notice. And I've changed my will. Megan and Julia will have this house. You'll get nothing." Silence shattered the room. My parents froze. Julia clutched my hand. Then the shouting began. "You can't do this," my mother screamed. "You're not in your right mind." My father tried to reason, his voice suddenly soft. "Think about what you're saying. Think about the family." Grandma didn't flinch. "I am thinking about the family," she said. "I'm thinking about the child you tried to erase." The lawyer cleared his throat. "Everything's drafted and signed. It stands." My father's knees buckled. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After years of being invisible, someone had finally seen me and my daughter and decided we mattered. For the first time, the silence in that house wasn't my punishment. It was their consequence. The house fell into a heavy, unnatural quiet after Grandma's words. No shouting now, no excuses, just stunned silence. My parents stood there, pale and speechless, the lawyer calmly packing his briefcase, while Julia clung to my hand. When Grandma finally turned to leave, her cane tapping softly on the floor, she didn't look back. She didn't need to. The decision was final. That evening, the silence shifted. It wasn't relief, it was tension. My father retreated to the garden, hacking at shrubs that didn't need trimming. My mother slammed dishes in the sink, each crash louder than words. Julia noticed. "Is it over now?" she whispered that night in the attic. I wanted to tell her yes. I wanted to promise her peace, but I knew better. "Not yet," I said quietly, brushing her hair from her face. Because silence like that never lasts. It's just the calm before the next storm. And the storm arrived 3 mornings later. A sharp knock, firm, deliberate. When I opened the door, 2 uniformed officers stood on the porch beside a woman with a clipboard, Adult Protective Services. My stomach dropped. My mother appeared behind me instantly, voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Oh, officers, thank you for coming. We were so worried." The taller officer cleared his throat. "We received a report of possible elder abuse in this household. We'll need to speak to everyone separately." Elder abuse. Of course. I didn't need a confession to know who'd made the call. They separated us. Grandma was escorted to her room. Julia was led to the kitchen by the female officer, her little hand clutching her stuffed bunny. I sat on the couch, the clipboard woman across from me. My mother hovered nearby, whispering words like confused and unsafe. My blood ran cold. They weren't just trying to smear me, they were trying to destroy me. If they arrested me, what would happen to Julia? I swallowed hard and forced my voice to stay calm as the questioning began. "Do you prepare meals for your grandmother?" "Yes," I said carefully. "I always have." "Were you alone with her before she signed those documents?" "Yes, but not during." "Who was the man in her room that morning?" "Her lawyer, the one she hired." The questions weren't unfair, but the way they watched me, pens scratching, glances exchanged, It felt like guilt had already been decided. From down the hall, I heard Grandma's voice, clear, steady, her tone sharper than it had been in years. By the time the officers came back out, everything had changed. Their expressions had softened, the suspicion was gone, replaced by something harder, colder, but not directed at me. They were looking at my parents now. And then Grandma appeared in the doorway herself, leaning on her cane, but standing tall. "No one forced me," she said firmly. "I called my lawyer myself. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I changed my will because it's my right to do so." The room went dead still. Then she turned her gaze on my parents, eyes blazing. "The only abuse in this house is how you treat Megan and that child." If words could slap, that one left a mark. The APS worker closed her folder. "I don't see any concerns here," she said briskly. "Everything appears in order." The officers nodded. "Thank you for your time." "There's nothing further to pursue?" Relief hit me so hard I could barely breathe. I pulled Julia into my arms the second she was back by my side. She buried her face in my shoulder, trembling. But Grandma wasn't finished. "To call the police on your own daughter," she said, shaking her head. "To lie about me. To drag my great-grandchild into this. You don't belong under my roof." My mother gasped, grabbing the back of a chair. My father opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "You'll move out," Grandma said flatly. "I don't care how, but you will." It wasn't a threat. It was an order. For the first time in my life, my parents had no words. When the door finally shut behind the officers, the silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. It was clean. Julia looked up at me. "Are we okay now?" she whispered. I smiled. A real smile this time. "Yes," I said. "We're okay." And for the first time, I believed it. The days that followed were uneasy. My parents moved like ghosts through the house, barely speaking, eyes full of venom, but mouths shut tight. Then, one morning, the quiet cracked. They cornered me in the kitchen. "You'll regret this," my mother hissed. "We'll make sure they take Julia from you," my father added, his voice low and threatening. I didn't flinch, but Julia heard them. She was sitting on the stairs, clutching her bunny, her eyes wide. That was it, the final straw. The next morning, Grandma made another call. By noon, 2 officers were back at the door, this time carrying papers. A no-contact order. "You'll have to leave," Grandma said coldly, "and you'll leave Megan and Julia alone." No shouting, no drama, just the sound of zippers and suitcases. They left under police supervision. That night, Julia slept straight through, as her first full night's rest in weeks. 6 months passed. Word travels fast in families like ours. One afternoon, a cousin called, whispering like she was sharing a secret. "Your parents asked Becky for help," she said. Of course they had. The golden child. The investment. "And?" I asked. She told them money's tight. Money's tight. After everything they gave her, house deposit, renovations, furniture, now she couldn't spare a dime. I shouldn't have laughed, but I did. By the end of the month, new whispers reached me. My parents had been seen at a shelter. Later, someone said they'd moved into a rundown rental on the edge of town. The irony was brutal. After years of treating us like we didn't belong, they'd finally become the outsiders. Now, Julia and I live downstairs with Grandma. Julia has her own little room, soft yellow walls, drawings taped everywhere. In the mornings, she sits at the kitchen table while Grandma beams at her over breakfast, proud of every silly doodle. We're not rich. We don't live in luxury. But for the first time in my life, we're safe. We're a family. The house feels lighter now. No shouting, no tension, no ghosts. Just laughter. Sometimes I still find old photos tucked in drawers, the ones where Julia was erased. I don't throw them away. I keep them as reminders of what we survived. Because the truth is, you can rebuild from anything once someone decides you're worth standing up for. So what do you think? Did my grandmother go too far? Or did she finally do what no one else had the courage to do? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe.